Hello and welcome to today's brochure review. We're actually choosing something, again, fairly modern. This time we're looking at the MG6 GT. And, yep, it's only one brochure. So I've had, in the past, an MG6 brochure that's actually been effectively sort of two different models. It's been the MG Magnet, which is the saloon version of the MG6 GT. And then when you turned it over like that, on the other side you had the MG6. This one is more conventional. And this one is, just trying to find if there is a date on this. So I can't find a date, but I would guess 2011. Judging by the fact that it's talking about it being the first MG in 16 years. Or the first new MG, rather. So here we go. This is the MG6 GT. This was actually built in, I think it was built in China, if I remember rightly. I can't think exactly where. It was a product of the sale of MG Rover to the Chinese. I think it was SAIC, S-A-I-C, and they now produce a range of cars primarily for the Chinese market that were based on the old Rover 75 platform, albeit modified, of which this is one of the cars that they produce. This one is no longer produced for the UK market, but it was MG's first entry into the UK market, and it received mixed reviews when new. You do not see very many of them around. They didn't sell that well, but the prices that they are going for in the second-hand market do make them a bit of a second-hand bargain. Engine-wise, I seem to remember there being only two options. There was a 1.9 litre diesel and a 1.8 litre turbocharged petrol. The turbocharged petrol being, I think it was called the N series, and I think it was basically a K series 1.8 with all of the issues painfully expunged. Issues which apparently MG Rover had available to put on stream at the time, but never did. So we were left with engines that did have some overheating issues and head gasket failure problems. Apparently the engine in this, it may be because there are so few of them around, but I think certainly on the Chinese market, the engine in this is pretty dependable and doesn't have that many issues. The diesel seemed to be very much for the European market. It's okay. I have heard of people having problems with them, but I have heard other people that have had no problems whatsoever and swear by them. Very much a car sort of basically cashing in on the old MG brand as a sporting brand, originally Morris Garages, obviously. Very much sort of cashing in on the fact, certainly for our market, that it was a lost love has been found. A British motoring icon is back to stay. It's time to be seduced by the all-new MG6 GT. To enjoy its contemporary lines, innovative technology, and the sense of fun at its heart. They are now actually sort of really pushing themselves as a manufacturer of affordable electric cars. I think it's the ZS. There is an all-electric ZS sort of SUV type thing, available for around 25,000, which is actually capable of a claimed range of 200 miles between charges. And they do seem to be selling pretty well on the whole. But certainly this was the brand's first major re-entry into the market. There was the TF, MG TF, the sports, two-door sports mid-engined affair, based on the MGF, which came out and was reproduced in 2007 or so. But this one I think is arguably the first all-new, brand new model. Previous models were based on the Rover 200-400 range, so this is technically the first sort of all-new MG for 16 years, as it states here. It is going very much on the fact that it is a truly British car, albeit not technically assembled in Britain, I don't think. I'm not sure if some were assembled at Longbridge from CKD kits. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But it didn't, as I say, it really didn't sell that well, but you did get quite a lot of car for your money. LED rear lights as standard and sat-nav on the SE and TSE trim levels. So you really did sort of get a lot of car for the money. And certainly in this brochure, it's been photographed in one of the more flattering colours, in this case black, which really does sort of show off the arguably fairly elegant lines of the car. It's not a bad looking car, to be honest with you. Certainly cashing in on MG's motoring and motorsport heritage, such as the MG LE 500 and other various vehicles from the past, such as this one, which is a land speed record attempt exceeding 200 miles an hour. Focusing here on the 1.8 turbo, which I think if you remove all of that covering is basically just K-series underneath, albeit a heavily modified K-series. And another there from the side, obviously sort of showing the car in profile. Talking about great British sporting style, so whichever way you look at the new MG6, its fastback body style won't fail to impress. The strong lines, curved edges and sporty features reflect the quality of this new model and a hint of the fun character at its heart. The iconic octagonal logo sits proudly on the front grille. Distinctive halogen headlights add to the sporting appeal, and the body-coloured mirrors give the car a smooth, streamlined look. The aerodynamic shape brings MG's sporting heritage to the new generation models. There it is, new generation, sporting heritage. Then we go on to some interior shots. That was the interior, and I've actually sat in one of these. All of the touch points, the major touch points, are of that sort of nice soft touch plastic. But obviously, when you sort of, as with all modern cars, when you sort of get lower down in the non-touch point areas, it does feel a little bit sort of cheap and plasticky. But that can be the same of any non-premium modern car. Pretty contemporary, to be honest with you. There was nothing terrible about the interior. It was, you know, there was nothing really sort of outstanding about it, as in real sort of standout features of the interior. Although one thing I did like on these cars was the seats. So the top part of the seat is in sort of three parts, almost like almost sort of reminiscent of the MG Octagon. And it's just sort of like little design things like that you sort of saw in these models. Also, you had a good range of sporting instrumentation. You didn't have separate oil pressure and battery levels, but you had a rev counter, speedometer, etc. You had a nice big display there. So really, it was just a very contemporary interior. A few styling touches, such as that hexagonal treatment or part hexagonal treatment there. Obviously, to make up, if you sort of take it further to its conclusion, it would be an Octagon. But just really just sort of nice little things. You had, even the S models, you got electronic air conditioning. SE and upwards, you had satellite navigation, rear parking aid, cruise control. And on the TSEs, you got the 18-inch alloys, reverse parking aid with rear view camera, which is good, luxurious leather sports seats, dual zone climate control, and satellite navigation with integrated Bluetooth phone connectivity. So you did get a lot, and it all at a reasonable price as well. In the rear, separate vents for the rear passengers, which is a nice feature that you don't see on all cars these days. I quite like the treatment around here. It's sort of, that could be sort of classed as being a little bit sort of dark and claustrophobic, but it does sort of give you that sort of cosy, not hemmed in, that sort of cosy tucked in feel, especially if you pull down the central armrest. Again, that semi-hexagonal, octagonal treatment on the rear seats as well. And quite a large boot as well, very practical. Obviously the seats are a 40-60 split, so again, very practical. And certainly for the money, if you wanted to buy something that sort of harked back to a much loved British brand of yesteryear, then this would have been the way to go. However, the residuals were not the most fantastic, let's say. So this is the climate control treatment if you have the dual zone climate control. I think that's probably a cup holder of some description. Contemporary inbuilt sort of radio CD player affair. Again, something you didn't really see and was being phased out on a lot of models was the separate slot CD player in favour of USB and Bluetooth audio connectivity. So it is certainly nice to see on a car of this era that it still has a CD slot. The only transmission available, certainly on the petrols, was a 5-speed manual. I think the diesels did get a 6-speed manual. This is the not so plush interior, obviously single zone climate control, but you can't really sort of notice, apart from the lack of another temperature control, really that much difference to a model with full climate control. It did come in quite a nice range of colours, to be perfectly honest. So orange metallic and the union blue. They also look good in the pitch black and the granite grey. So mainly it is these, either the very bright colours or the darker colours that they look good in. In my opinion, humble opinion obviously, not so great in the metallic silver, red or white. If I was going to have one, it would have to be the burnt orange metallic. I just like bright shades, or perhaps that union blue metallic. Interior wise, you only got the leather interior by the looks of it on the TSE, and you got the fabric trim again with that nice little motif there in the S and SE. The leather would be probably the nice one to have, but the fabric, I wouldn't be too disappointed with that either, to be honest with you. So servicing, apparently it requires servicing every 12 months or 15,000 miles. I'm not a fan of these modern service intervals, to be honest, although certainly on a petrol, the fact that they do burn a lot cleaner these days, and you've got longer life spark plugs, longer life in oils, etc. With petrol, you could argue 15,000 miles is right on the very limit of acceptability. But on a diesel, certainly I wouldn't be running it 15,000 miles or 12 months without at least having an interim oil change and filter change at 7,500 miles. All to do with making the car affordable, certainly for the first owner, maybe not necessarily that affordable when problems start for the second and third owners. Warranty wise, you got the maximum duration is 3 years or 60,000 miles. Now, apparently very high mileage drivers could enjoy peace of mind of an unlimited mileage cover during the first 12 months of ownership. Anti-corrosion market standard of 6 years regardless of mileage. Now, it seems to say here the maximum duration is 3 years or 60,000 miles. They don't seem to offer anything, any additional packages, certainly here for say year 4 or year 5. I'll be honest, I haven't investigated, so I don't know if they did, but that seemed to suggest that they didn't. But as with probably all manufacturers, they probably did offer, if you paid enough, certainly additional warranties should you desire them. Then we have a little bit about the various specifications. Really all bang up to date, to be honest, especially when you sort of talk about multi-link independent rear suspension, front McPherson strut suspension, electro-hydraulic power steering. There's nothing really in here that looks terribly old-fashioned. The 1.8 turbo 160 PS, so about 158-ish brake horsepower, or is it more, 161, 162 bhp? Either way, 160 PS, EU5 compliant as well, which was bang on the bang on trend for the time. Performance, very reasonable to be honest. Yeah, 158 brake horsepower. 0 to 60 in 8.4 seconds, which was pretty good for the class. The top speed, for some reason, limited to 120. That, I think, is very much a Chinese market thing. I certainly know in Japan, certainly at the time, Japanese cars were limited to top speed of 120. I'm wondering if it's the same for Japan and they just haven't removed the limiter. To be honest with you, certainly on UK roads, 120 miles an hour is very illegal, and you would never really want to be cruising at 120 miles an hour unless you're on the autobahn. There could be other reasons for it as well, but I'm going by the local regulations not being changed for European regulations because, well, they didn't really need to. Most countries don't have a 120 mile an hour speed limit. Looking at other areas, we talk about the heating and electrics, the braking system, all very standard. Anti-lock brakes, hill hold braking system, ventilated front and rear discs. That's a nice feature, and something you don't really see on, certainly ventilated rear discs, something you don't see on, or is it just ventilated front and rear disc brakes? Ventilated front and rear disc brakes. Well, that seems to assume they're both ventilated. So I'm not sure if they are or not, but you don't normally see ventilated rear discs, although I think you are seeing it more and more these days as cars become sort of larger and heavier and obviously need the additional braking power that a ventilated disc provides. So we've got the in-car entertainment, ambient interior lighting, air-conditioned front armrest storage. That's a nice feature. So you've basically got a fridge in between the armrest to keep drinks and chocolate bars, etc. Nice and cool. Electronic rain sensing wipers on the TSE. Heated front seating on the TSE as well. Auto light control system. So really, you did get an awful lot for your money. A lot of car for the money. And that's the final shot. And then we come to the end. The slogan, it's time to fall in love again, apparently. Obviously, it doesn't say apparently, but that's a bit I added. Anyway, that's that. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.